welcome to this episode of the Soul Sisters Lounge. I'm Emily with Infinite Heart Productions, and I'm joined here with two of my most beautiful and amazing soul sisters. They'll jump out and introduce themselves here in a minute. But this is our first episode, and we're bringing it to the world today just to see where it goes, what happens, and how we can potentially impact people in positive and uplifting ways. So this episode is actually going to be around when life feels heavy. So I'll go ahead and introduce my co-hosts. We'll start with Lindsay. This is my good friend, Lindsay Pope. Lindsay, do you want to jump out and introduce yourself?
Sure. So excited to be here. I'm Lindsay. I'm a local author and facilitator, and I'm a very proud mom. And I'm also a reverend in training, which will be an official thing starting in September. So I'm excited to see where the track goes for me next.
Yes, I love that. Love that for you. And next, and not least either, it's my other good friend, Alicia Hamilton. Alicia, do you want to jump out and share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Alicia Hamilton. I am officially a social entrepreneur. I am a nonprofit founder and led an organization called Fresh Start Furnishings for 10 years. And now I am in the place of launching my business, Social Progress Solutions. And it's a framework for human development. Yes, I am still working on all the taglines and things that go along with it, part of being an entrepreneur. I am also a mother to a beautiful 25-year-old son who is killing it in real estate, and love to do other community projects and things and just, support people however I can, including podcasts like this with beautiful soul sister friends.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Thank you both for sharing, a little bit about yourselves, helping the audience to get to know us. That's really what we're here to do, is to share our thoughts, feelings, experiences, life happenings, and trust that it'll reach the person or persons it's meant to. So with that, let's go ahead and we'll jump in. I have some questions here just to help keep us guided a little bit. So the first one I have is, what is one word that describes how you're arriving today? So Alicia, do you want to kick us off with that?
My word would be optimistic. I'm definitely feeling optimistic that our conversations are meant to be heard, that the three of us do have messages to share, and that they can help others. And also, Emily, about you, you didn't get, I want the audience to hear about you and what you do.
Oh, well, thank you. I guess, well, part of it was just, the lead into Infinite Heart Productions, but no, thanks, Liv. You're right. So yes, I'm Emily, founder of Infinite Heart Productions, which is a blended creative space. So wellness, creative, through wellness practices. I'm a Reiki master, crystal sound healing practitioner. I'm also a photographer, event builder, producer, lots of things that are sort of unfolding as life happens. And as these two know, you've been on this journey with me for a couple years, and there's lots of parts of us that start to become kind of uncovered throughout these moments. And so, yeah, I feel like for me personally, it's always difficult to give myself that title, if you will. Like, who am I? But that's, I guess, what I'm doing in this space, and how I'm trying to help others in their own journeys. And I love referring to it as coming back home to ourselves, because that's really what we're doing. We're letting go of all the things that we've been conditioned to believe, think, or hold on to, and most of it's not true. So we got to break down those barriers and, yeah, power through. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. Thanks, Lish. I appreciate you calling me out on that.
What we do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah. So the question, I'll just repeat it again. So what is one word that really describes, oh, wait, you already answered it. I'm sorry, Lindsay, this is for you. Sorry. Liz, are you good with your response? You said optimistic, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Lynn, so you're next, Lynn. So how about you? What's a word that is describing how you're arriving today?
So my word is going to be curious because I'm very curious to see what's going to happen from this. I'm also just feeling I'm cheating and adding a second word of open because I just feel like, I want to see just what transpires. And there's so much of that like mystery that I love when there's a little bit of unknown mystery involved. So I'm here for it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to piggyback because my word, I even like quickly wrote it down, was open. So just
Nice.
coming in, yeah, just coming in open and yeah, kind of just receptive to wherever this could potentially take the three of us, right? I mean, we're here together collectively, open hearts, open minds, just trying to share our messages with the world. And I think we even said at the top of the call, like, it only reaches one person. We know we did our job, right? All right. Well, so let's go ahead and we're going to jump in. I do have some questions just to help keep the flow of what brings us here today. And again, the topic today is when life feels heavy. And really, it was something that came through for me just around some personal experiences that have been happening over the past couple of weeks. And these two are really tuned into what has been happening for me and have been there for me. And I'm so grateful for both of you. I'll just highlight that again, how deeply, deeply honored and grateful I am for both of you just being there energetically, supporting me physically, all of it. So thank you. But what is something that you all feel really inspired us to have this conversation, and why does it matter? Why is it important to talk about when life feels heavy? Is there anything that's maybe coming to mind for you guys around that?
I think for me, the world feels heavy right now. And I know that, I know Em and I are both empaths, and the life of an empath in 2026, it's like, it's not easy. The energy of the world is just seems to feel very heavy right now. So I feel like that's why this conversation is so important because just talking about it, acknowledging it, and just letting people know that if you're feeling this heaviness, that you're not the only one that's feeling it. It really is a thing, and it's not your fault. And I know we all know people that are just going through a lot in different ways, and it seems to be a lot of things hitting them at once. And again, feeling like you're not alone if that's happening to you, and that it doesn't mean that there's anything bad or wrong about you. I think that's a really essential piece of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I jump in real quick, Lish? I know you probably
Yeah.
going to say, but I just want to kind of piggyback off of that lens because that hits really deep for me on a few levels. But like when you said that there's nothing wrong with you, like I carried that for such a long time, really believing and thinking there's something wrong with me. Why am I so sensitive? Why do I feel so deeply? Why do I think so deeply? Well, now I'm starting to understand that the frequency that I resonate at is meant to be part of the change that this world needs to help remind people that we're meant to feel. We're meant to be feelers. That's, part of being human. And so whenever somebody is really feeling something very deeply, I just wanted to preface that there's nothing wrong at all, with that. If anything, it's a gift.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Linz. How about you, Lish? Anything coming up for you?
Yeah. Um, I think it's important, at least from my perspective, to talk about this. I'd like to say that I'm good at carrying heavy things. I do live this out in the sense I actually seek out carrying heavy things. Um, but also, I mean, that's from an external physical standpoint. But I think that has been my expression of and what's helped me to carry the very heavy internal things that I've carried, Um, and I think I got really good at that. What I wasn't so good was putting things down, or my own power in doing so. And so I think it's important to talk about when things feel heavy, at least on mine, and it kind of ties in a little bit to your one of the last questions that you sent, Emily, about our own choice in doing so, you know, and I've come to find, at least in my own personal life, that I had a lot more choice over it than I initially took ownership before. So, so it's been, it's been a journey learning how to recognize heavy things and put them down. I learn how to put them down and why do I like carrying them and continuing to carry them sometimes, even if I know how to put them down. Um, but it's all, it's just an important discussion to have, especially because they really can take people all the way out. And that is so unfortunate to me, especially being in this place now where I'm like, you just gotta put it down, you know?
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, yeah, so
Yeah, and
I think it's
sometimes
important to talk about.
it absolutely is. You're absolutely right. And I think that's kind of, at least from my perspective and experience, is part of that process is uh, like being reminded of that, and sometimes we just need to hear it externally from somebody else. I know I do, and I've connected with both of you at various times when I'm like holding something, right, heavy. And it's like, just put it down, just kind of break it apart, put it down. You don't need to continue to carry this thing or these series of things, and I know for me personally, that's really just been helpful whenever I am feeling those weights, is like remembering I don't have to carry them alone.
Hmm.
And that has been really huge for me with what I've been processing the past couple of weeks. Is one, this was the first time I ever really connected with another person when it happened, which Lindsay and she connected with me energetically when I was really going through what I was going through, but then also communicating it to both of you that I had gone through what I had gone through. And then also telling my family what had happened. That was the first time any of those things happened. So that was that beautiful reminder for me of I don't need to carry this alone. Mhm. That those
Mhm.
heavy weights do not need to be something I have to carry alone.
Hmm.
Yes. And I appreciate both of you bringing up that point because it is so essential. And I know that the ego is what tells us that we should be the word should. Like I love whoever that was that said stop shoulding on
Should.
yourself.
Yeah.
um but it's like, that was a thing that I used to hear in my brain. I still do, where it's like, well, I should be able to do this by myself. I shouldn't da da da, right? Like whatever those rules are that you're constructing just to make yourself feel worse. It's like it's all BS at the end of the day. Like the truth is that we are supposed to connect. We are supposed to help each other. We are supposed to lean on each other. And I know I even had that with both of you girls where I was, I realized there was something I wanted to ask for help on, and my ego was like, wait a minute, and then I just kind of just pushed through it and asked anyway. And it was such a relief because, of course, both of you were extremely receptive and said, absolutely, we'll be happy to help you, which I knew you would say that. So that's how crazy the ego is. It's like,
Mhm.
despite that logic coming in, it's like the emotional side still wants to have this grip. But it's like, I've learned from personal experience, like you have to get through that, barrier and just be like, I'm going to ask or I'm going to reach out or connect anyway, even though my brain is telling me not to. And then ultimately, there is a lot of relief that comes with being honest.
Yeah, and asking for help, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that is the unfortunate part of this strange conditioning that we've just had as humans, I feel, some more than others, feeling like they just have to power through alone, that they can ask for help. I was actually watching a documentary last evening, and, part of this interview was a police officer who had just, experienced this traumatic event. And he said that, he was very honest and vulnerable in sharing that he had to ask for help. And even in the interview, he said, that's not something that police officers do, right? So not only is he breaking that paradigm, but he's also embodying what it looks like to ask for help and that you can't carry something like that alone. And I just felt like there was so much power in that moment, watching that and hearing that from him. Because one, it was, I don't want it to be like this like male female thing, but I feel like men just in general, like they've had a challenge with expressing how they feel. I know we all have. But I just in that moment I just felt so like connected to this person, in them finally feeling like it was safe to ask for help and that they weren't going to be looked down upon, for that. All because he's in the role of being an officer. And I feel like that's another paradigm that we're having to break from.
Well,
Hmm.
part of asking for help is even recognizing that you need it, right? Is that your the next question was like, what does it feel like? Are you
Mm. Yeah.
recognizing it?
Yeah. If you want to segue, yeah, segue into that, Lish. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, one of the things was like, or one of the questions was, when was the last time we felt heavy? Uh, and I had to think on that for a second. I know I'm kind of skipping around, but we'll go because it kind of ties in. Is
Mhm.
I didn't I didn't know that I was in that place, Like I can have the bad day, and usually it is just a bad day, and that's what I tell myself, and that's all it is. And I like to stick in that area. Um, but when I realized it was more than just a bad day, I just found myself crying a lot, found myself crying a lot. I was incredibly fatigued. Um, I did not have the bandwidth to handle my my responsibilities,
Yeah.
particularly my work responsibilities. I was going through, I'd lost my dog, and then I'd went through a breakup, and it was like those two breakup or those two losses brought up all this other stuff from when I was younger. And I just wasn't ready for it, and I had a lot of responsibilities with my job, and um, I just found myself crying all the time and not really having any bandwidth to do anything and needing to truly rest and lay down more. And that's not me. So it's I would say definitely a difference in your pattern. When do you feel heavy the most? There's a difference in your pattern and how you normally are. And that was definitely a difference for me. But it took me a solid 2 months
Yeah.
to even realize that,
Mhm.
to have my self-awareness come on board and like tell me something was really actually wrong, not with me, but during that season that I needed to look at, like what was this that had just kind of come over me like a warm wet blanket, because it's not, I
Mhm.
didn't necessarily feel bad. That's right. So it's like sometimes you just don't even know until, it takes a little bit even just to recognize where you are. I guess
Yeah.
is my point.
Yeah.
Or even know you need to ask and what you need to ask help for, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's also just part of it is, allowing, right? Like allowing ourselves to be a bumbling mess for 2 months,
Hmm.
right? And like not feeling like shame around that or guilty, like really just kind of letting go of any of those ideologies of, well, I got to get this figured out tonight so I can be on point tomorrow. Well, no, we don't. You can show up tomorrow and still be a bumbling mess, still show up and, take those action points to get through your day, right? Or if you really can't, then take a complete day for yourself if you need to. But I think that's kind of part of it, it's okay to be a mess, and allow ourselves without like that self-talk of, oh, I got to have it figured out right now,
Hmm.
you know?
Or
Yeah.
just pushing through stuff, because I'm pretty certain that's what I was probably doing. Just really pushing hard through until I just couldn't anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we all put that, and again, I think this is like a programming, like societal expectation that we have to, like, we can't just fall apart. We can't, rest and cry. And yeah. And sometimes that's exactly what you need to do. And that's what you need. And if you try to keep forcing yourself out of it, it's not going to work. Your
Mm-mm.
body's going to find a way to really bring it. I know for me, when I was kind of going through the thick of things, I literally sprained my right ankle, and I do not see that as a coincidence. I see that as that I was not slowing down and I was physically forced to slow down. And so I totally believe in the power of that, that, if you don't listen to the signals and the signs, then there may be something or, happens that forces you to actually slow down and actually, start to look and see things differently and rest like you need to rest and stop just charging forward like we think we're supposed to do. So yeah, there's a lot of power in allowing yourself to do that.
Yeah, and Lance, you bring up a really beautiful point because I remember when you were going through that, and I also remember you telling me that when you were in that experience, you were in the grocery store, if I remember correctly, and you had this different perspective for yourself of what that was like, being limited and not being able to do certain things because you were limited with your ankle, right?
Yes.
Right, right. And so it wasn't only this like reminder for yourself of how to slow down, but you also really had these experiences of like perspective through a
Hmm.
different lens of how you were able to really walk through life at that time.
Yes, that was absolutely it. That was for me the huge part of it, and why that happened to me was because I needed that shift and I needed the open eyes and open mind that experience provided for me. And there would have been no other way. Like there would have been no other reason for me to ride a cart to a grocery store, had I not sprained my ankle. So there was so many lessons in that. But I also think like being open to that, like being open, not just sitting there and being, super discouraged that you have this physical injury or whatever's going on, but also just being open to like, what is this trying to teach me? What can I see differently that I maybe wouldn't have seen otherwise? And just having that shift really helps get you through. It's still immensely frustrating, don't get me wrong, but it's not just frustrating. Like there is some growth that can happen in those difficult moments.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think the perspective is such a big piece that sometimes we could be challenged with, right? Like how many times are most of us, if not all of us, guilty of being so kind of like stuck in our own perception of something that when somebody's communicating something to us, it could be difficult for us to open up our lens and be able to look down the lens that they're looking down, right? And really open ourselves up to that and not have this like linear pathway, of like somebody's coming in, they're sharing their perspective, their feelings on something, and really like sitting with that for them and trying your best to like look down that lens with them. We're never going to see it ever the same way. Like that's impossible for any of us to do that, but we can certainly try. We can certainly jump in there and look down that lens and try to see what the other person is seeing. Um, but I think, yeah, the perspective piece is another just like important component whenever we're kind of just showing up for each other in this world, and sometimes people have a difficult time with that. They just do, you know, holding that space. And yeah, yeah. Well,
Is-
so
I was
yeah,
gonna say, I'm curious, what does when life feels heavy in that mentally, physically, emotional, I am curious what that feels like for you guys. So I was
yeah,
kind of surprised what came up for me.
yeah. So you mean like what does it mean for us mentally, physically? Like how is it showing up? Linz, do you want to jump in and share what?
Yeah, I think I can really relate to what you were saying, Alicia, as far as the fatigue for sure and the feeling emotional and just needing to express that, the crying and things like that. And I think for me, I also tend to retreat more. I don't really do as much out in the world when I'm feeling that way. So I tend to be like more at home by myself, kind of going into like hermit mode. And yeah, just spending time like in bed, a lot of time just laying down, resting. So that in that way, I think we're similar.
Yeah. Yeah, I can vibe with that too. Whenever I'm feeling like overwhelmed with things that are happening, kind of putting my phone in airplane mode and just really kind of shutting off the world and taking that time, for myself. Um, But also, again, just dialing back into where we were at the top of this conversation is like knowing that when I'm working through something that I don't have to carry it alone, that it's okay to reach out. It's okay to share what's showing up for me and keeping myself open and receptive to what someone else is going to show me. That's simply always this reflection back to me. It's a continuation of this projection out, reflection back, projection out, reflection back, right? And the more that we really understand that anytime something is happening in our life for us, and again, this is just my experience and perspective, it is that back and forth, right? Of like you're projecting outward, okay, well, what's coming back in for you? And like, what are you meant to understand deeper about yourself in that moment? Because it's never about the other person, right? It's always what is it really reflecting back deeper for us to understand within ourselves. And so I know that this is like a continual process for me when it comes to my emotional discontent of feeling safe to be honest and open and not not afraid to feel and communicate that with other people in a way that I'm going to feel like it's too much.
Yeah, for me, so heaviness mentally feels very chaotic. And like there's a sense of urgency. I always, I didn't think, I was kind of surprised that that came up. So I typically don't associate anxiety with heaviness, but definitely when that comes on, yeah, it's a heavy weight to carry. Maybe that's a feeling that anxiety is a heavy weight to carry. Um, yeah, and then the emotionally, heavy emotionally, I'll feel a lot of self-pity or like woe is me kind of stuff. And that's that where your world gets so small that all you're seeing is like your own stuff. So I definitely perspective is so huge. And that's why even getting outside, I think even if you don't have the capacity to talk to anybody, just like can you go outside? Because it just opens up a perspective because it is so easy to kind of withdraw. Um, yeah, heaviness just feels like a lot of self-pity,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not, yeah, it just kind of definitely feels icky. And spiritually, for me, it feels like no anchor, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of just feels like I don't have a foundation. Um, yeah, it's weird how heaviness can also, at least at first glance, seem like it would be so freeing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. I'm just picturing this spiritual experience I had when I kind of went through an existential crisis and I was adrift at sea. And there was nothing freeing about that. It actually felt really heavy because I didn't know where my bearings were. And that was heavy to carry until God got me through it and he eventually saw me to a different shores, but getting away with this metaphor in any case.
Yeah, yeah.
It
Well,
was cool. It was cool to think about how does heavy actually feel in these different capacities because it's kind of easy physically. I think a lot of people experience a heaviness and literal, physical heaviness when you're feeling heavy. But in those other states, what does it actually feel like?
yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to piggyback back off that a minute, Lish, because and this is really because it was so fresh for me just a couple weeks ago, really working through the heaviness for myself in my root chakra, which is that safety, that stability, that sense of belonging, right? And when I was feeling out of sorts that day, I had no idea the journey I was about to go on, and had some work done on my body that activated the root chakra and really, moved that energy. And once that energy got moving and it was just like wound popping out after wound popping out, and I had to really like sit with what was showing up for me. And a lot of it had to do with, for me in that moment, safety, security, sense of belonging, but also validation, external validation. And how often are we in the spaces of like seeking that out, right? Like feeling like, oh, I'm not completely settled until I get validation from somebody else that I'm on the right path for myself, or this thing that I'm doing is like right for where I should be, right? And I know I struggled with that a lot, and I know we've all talked about that, but it's so deep ingrained. I know for me, the external validation, I know I'm not alone. A lot of people struggle with that. Yeah, feeling like being seen, right? But being seen in a way where we want to be seen, where it is our true, authentic voice, right? And not seen in these ways that we've been conditioned to be seen. And I think that's what's been really difficult for me over
That's
the
a
years.
very heavy thing to carry, external validation.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And having to be liked by everybody. My grandma told me from the start, she used to say 50% of people won't know you, 25% won't like you, and the 25 that do, you focus on them. And I'm like, I never got it, but hitting 40, I was like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah. Oh, I love
Right,
I
that.
no
she's
longer
spot
care.
on. I love that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She
That's
is
a
spot
great.
on. I think for me, because I can relate to M struggle in this area with the need for external validation. And I have, again, because God likes to be very dramatic in my life. So he's just very like strip me down of all these things that used to give it to me and now they're gone. So I'm just like, ugh, like, I feel like you can't even breathe because you never built, like, I've never built that internal oxygen tank in that area. So now it's like been a season for me to practice building it, and it's been very challenging. Um, but ultimately I know that that's where the goal is to be. um and that's why I actually have the tree behind me, because this is what it's all about. Like you're going to stay anchored in your truth, and that if the wind or the storms come and sway you, but they're not going to knock you down. You're going to stay rooted and anchored. So it's like my little visual to help remind myself because
Love
I
that.
need the visual to help me remember what it's supposed to be. Um, but yeah, it's hard because again, I think that's another area where we grow up and we're given things like awards and certificates, and so we're again, watching, every single sport, of course, has a winner and a loser, and so there's just these things that we're trying to reach these goals. And then it's coming back to realizing and learning the truth and what really is going to fulfill you and serve you. And I think I agree with Leisha about the being in your 40s. It's just something about that decade. It does start to make it a little bit easier to come into that and to not be as fixated on the external as you were previous to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Great point, Linz. And I'm just going to highlight that if that's okay around, I know what, turning 40 kind of like meant for me. And I really started to feel like that really, it was such a year where a lot shifted for me, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It's almost like that was, you know, um, where I really started to kind of rattle my own cage, if you will, and how am I showing up in the world? What do I really want to be doing? Do I want to be working this 9 to 5 job? Where do I want to be dedicating my time, my energy, myself? So there is something to be said about turning 40, at least I think all of us, I don't want to speak for you both, but that we have experienced that, we went through all the decades prior to really allow us to step into our 40s and really embody, like, it's almost like the becoming of who we are. That's what it's been for me in my 40s, is really stepping into myself, like fully. And yeah.
I agree. Yeah. Develop for me, it's been actually developing a sense of self, and really getting clear on what does Alicia do for herself and what's real and true and authentic, and yeah, what has been done for other people and to please other people and to get to have the external validation and to be, valued and appreciated and worthy and all those things. So it is quite the journey. and to develop that within that internal capacity. And I love how you said the oxygen tank, yeah, because that is very true. You have your own oxygen tank inside. Like, I'm okay whether you're okay with me or not, and God darn is it empowering. Like, it is just so much fun.
Yeah. That like sovereignty, right?
Mm-hmm. And it's way lighter. That's I think just in general, like, this is a topic on heaviness. Heaviness is carrying everybody else's shit, and everybody else's expectations of you, and they're trying to fill whatever the projection they're projecting onto you of what they want you to be. Like, no, I need to be who I am, and if that
Yes.
fits with you, great. But like, if not, it doesn't mean I'm wrong, I'm bad, I'm not enough. It doesn't have to mean anything other than just we just don't align, so it has been very, yeah, freeing to put that down. And it's still a problem, not obviously not perfect, but just having more awareness around that, you know and when I might be doing that.
Yeah.
Yes. I had one question that came through for me today while I was taking my walk outside, and that was, basically, how would you live your life? And you could insert whatever you believe in here. But, I believe in God, but it doesn't matter. But basically, whatever positive higher power you personally believe in. So you would ask yourself, how would I live my life? What would I do differently if the only approval I sought was from God? And then you just see how you answer that question, and you see, is my answer, oh, exactly what I'm doing today? Or is my answer actually, I would do this differently? Or I would do this instead. It's just an interesting question. I haven't even sat with it yet because it came through for me earlier today, but I look forward to sitting with it. And I think it's a good like challenge question to just contemplate for yourself. And if there is a difference, that's okay. Honoring that and not feeling like again that you're messing up or you're doing anything wrong. It's just noticing, which is that key first step to that kind of awakening process.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a beautiful message that came through for you, Lindsay. And I wish that I had the video. I might have it saved somewhere, but I did come across a video recently that Madonna was kind of talking through something very similar in the sense of, and I don't want to like butcher it, or please don't quote this, verbatim. So I'm going off of memory here of what she essentially said, but it was very much in alignment with what your question was, which is like we're essentially like these just channels of God. God's message is just being channeled through us, kind of whatever is coming through and showing up. And then when it's being channeled through us, well, then what are we kind of doing with it? And how many times I'm sure you both can relate to when, those channeled messages come through and we have to sit with them and understand, is this meant for right now? Is this meant for later? What am I meant to do with this? And I feel like that's just, and I don't know if that's maybe, if that is, I feel like that is relative to what you're saying, Lindsay, around, just trying to understand a little bit about, that connection to, divine source, creator, God, universe. Again, your point, whatever people are using for that term. But that's how I guess I've been perceiving it is, we're here just to be that kind of like messenger, that channel. And the more that we are open, we're in flow, we are authentic and aligned with ourselves, the easier that those messages come through with clarity where we're not in a space of doubt when it comes through, or is this real? Is this meant for me? Or, because I know I struggled with that for a long time. What is my purpose? What am I here to do? Well, now that I'm more open, receptive, and in flow, when they come through, it kind of is like that aha, like, oh yeah, okay. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's what came through for me with that a little bit. Like I said, I wish I had the video from Madonna because she was kind of talking through, that she just has, her success is not, she said something along the lines of like, her success is not her success, it's God.
Mm-hmm.
She's just it's just the channeling coming through her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love that.
Something along those lines. Yeah, I'll have to see if I can find the video, but it really resonated for me very deeply.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Keeping with the heaviness piece of this, and also I'm just thinking about my line of work and kind of where I feel like I'm called to be a healer. It's definitely with people who are facing financial insecurity. And I actually opened up a video that ultimately ended up winning a United Way Changemaker Challenge. Starting with feeling or poverty feels like carrying a ton of bricks because it's just a heavy experience. It's and it's not just poverty necessarily, but it's living in survival mode is extremely heavy. And as you're talking, Em, I was thinking, it cuts off openness. It really it just narrows your field of view and focus to your basic needs, your food, clothing, housing, and shelter. That having any of openness to like, what is my purpose on earth? There's not even it's so heavy, it just kind of encloses that, and you're just left with like purpose. My purpose is to survive. That's it. I need to survive today so I can make it to tomorrow. And
hmm
yeah, that's truly one of the reasons that I'm moving in the way that I am with my business and things because I want to help lift that. I want to help lift that financial security heaviness so that people can then be open to, you know, and just hearing God more, tapping into that broader question of why are we here and fulfilling their full potential.
hmm
Uh,
hmm
so yeah, it's just life circumstances can certainly external life circumstances can certainly come in with a heaviness on that, and it's a real struggle to be open even in that sense. But there are people who not maybe not as much in America, I don't know, but from a global standpoint, there are some very poor people that are extremely light in terms of spiritually and emotionally and all of that. So it's not that it's impossible or anything. It's a really interesting dynamic. Yeah, I want to kind of think on that one a little bit more for myself. Like, what is it?
hmm
Gratitude is certainly found there. But what is it that allows them to have a sense of purpose and fulfillment while even going through such difficulty, in terms of just day-to-day survival?
Yeah,
Because it is really heavy.
of course. Yeah, and you bring up a good point, Alicia, just with the gratitude piece.
Hmm.
Because I feel like that can be so powerful when we're in those darker spaces. Instead of getting so engulfed by the 10 heavy weighted things that we're feeling, trying to kind of shrink. It's almost like the staircase method, right? Don't look at the whole staircase, look at the one in front of you. And so when we kind of pull the energy back and the perspective back into that one staircase and focus on more of like the gratitude of how we can walk up that staircase, that starts to shift a little bit around our own perceptions of how can we climb this staircase or this mountain or whatever it is that we're feeling is going to be so challenging,
Hmm.
right? The gratitude shifts so much. I know it has for me, writing in a gratitude journal, 3 to 5 things a day. What am I grateful for? And it isn't always going to be like material things, right? Like, and I feel like sometimes that's important to like not point out the material things, right? Like I'm grateful for my, 5 toes on both of my feet, right? I'm grateful for my feet, because I'm grateful for my eyes to see, because there are people in this world that do not have those things. And so, when we start to dial into like what we are truly grateful for, gratitude is very powerful.
Mhm.
hmm
Definitely lift heaviness of all kinds for sure.
I think so.
Hmm.
Yeah. Linz, do you have anything to add on that yourself or
Yeah,
we
I agree. I very much agree with gratitude. There's a lot of power in gratitude. And it also just helps really remind you, because I know for me, when I'm in the heaviness, it's like all you can think of is the negative. And so it really just helps you to reframe your thoughts and to put something positive down that, hey, this is going for me, whatever it is, even if you're like, I'm grateful that I woke up breathing today, right? Because you had to wake up to be able to write your gratitude list. So it can really be as simple as you need it to be, but just kind of looking at it as, right, again, like not everybody gets to wake up today. I got to wake up today. That's a gift, So putting that down and helping to shift that perspective, there is a lot of power in that.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, so I'm gonna shift into another question because I feel like it's relative really to what we're talking about. But what are some of the things that have helped you to like move through like the darkest seasons in your life? We're kind of talking about the heaviness and like what it feels like, but how have you really helped to kind of shift it or move it so it doesn't feel so heavy? Are there any things coming up for you guys around that?
Uh, I can speak on that. So I'll definitely say, and I keep glancing down to the side here because of my notes. I have my notes. But so definitely close friendships and spiritual direction have been helpful, for me from a broader standpoint. But I guess let me start with myself when it's just me with me. Everywhere I go, there I am. Um,
Love that.
because people always want to, you think you can just move to another state and your heaviness
Oh,
is gonna like stay
guilty.
there. Yeah,
We've talked about this. Guilty. Go ahead, Liv.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. But you're still gonna run into the same, you're just taking your stuff with you.
Yeah.
Um, from that, what are you bringing with you internally? So, for me, helping physical activity has been really um, transformational, I would say.
Yes.
Um, it's yeah, it's just it moves that energy. It's if you feel physically heavy, if you physically move your body, it will move that physical heaviness. Um, but that's not to take away from I understand how extremely hard it is, particularly if you were physically exhausted and tired. And I'm not saying not to pay attention to that because there is a space for rest too.
Hmm.
Um, but everything's a spectrum, and I think you can get really sucked into either side of that spectrum. You can get sucked into the bed where you never get out and you don't even take a shower, you
Yeah.
know. Or you can get sucked into the other side where you push through so much that you never stop to slow down at all, and neither of those are good. But you gotta, and I would say this across all things, whether it's heaviness or anything else, you got to be able to call your own BS meter. That's
Yeah.
the way I know how to put it. Like call your own BS. Have I always wanted to go to the gym or even to go for a walk? No. Have I gone for a walk and literally had my eyes closing while I was walking? Maybe I really did need to rest that day, but I I just knew that it would help because I would, if I'm, feeling heavy, I knew that moving would help me. So I know that's no shock to you guys that I would mention that, but I just truly believe in it, and it's free, and it doesn't have to be a lot. It can just be just some movement that you don't necessarily want to do in that moment because you don't feel like doing it. That's the thing. Feelings aren't facts. Feelings aren't facts. Just because you feel heavy doesn't mean that you have to stay there. And just moving your body and getting things flowing, I think is good. So then the next layer out from that is definitely the close friends, the spiritual direction, having quiet time with God, also adjusting expectations. Like it's silly to think nobody buys a car and thinks that they're never going to have to get new tires. or, that there's never going to be a problem or something like so. There's just thinking that there's not going to be seasons in life that are heavy and hard is just a misplaced expectation. Like it's not,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
yeah. So just taking like, yes, things are going to be hard sometimes in life. Yes,
Yep.
it's going to feel extremely heavy.
Yep.
You aren't the only one to go through it. And then that's where the gratitude comes in when you're not the only one to go through it. Take it one step beyond that, and I guarantee you somebody is going through something even harder than you in this very moment. And it's just like it comes that full circle. Um but there is a little bit of rebellion in it too. You have to rebel against that, having like, no, you're not, I'm not letting you just take me down, because you say
Mhm.
like things are heavy. Okay, well then I'm going to be the person strong enough to lift them. I'm not. Yeah, so there's a little bit of rebellion and warrior spirit in it too, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a few things coming up for me on this one. Linz, how about you?
Yeah, same. I feel like I agree for sure on a lot of things. The close friendships, spiritual direction, absolutely, both have been essential for me. Also the physical movement, I think for me, um, I find that a lot of it's like intentional positive body movement. So it's like walking or yoga or something like that where I am moving the energy in a way that feels comfortable for me. I also, for me, writing is huge for me. I love going outside and writing, especially by the water. That's kind of my, dream spot. But if I'm not outside, at least just getting on, even if it's just on the computer or wherever it is, it doesn't matter because you can really do it anywhere. And just having that creative outlet is really key and helps lift my energy in a huge way because I think that's kind of part of it that people that are creative are plagued with a lot, can be plagued with the more negative thoughts. So it's like learning how to channel that creative energy and getting it out in a positive way is going to help it kind of manage itself so it's not as negative on you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's like that vulnerability too when you're a creative, right? Because you're really putting a lot of your inner being outwardly for people to really see, whether it's writing, whether it's painting, whether it's drawing, whatever it is, right? Like really putting your, creative self out there. But I absolutely agree with both of you when it comes to really being able to move, like physically move, because that is what is absolutely going to get that energy moving, right? Is whether it's taking a walk or even if we are having, like Lish, you're talking about, well, if I'm having like a down day, if you will, like maybe I don't want to take that walk. Well, there's still ways we can move, right? It could be like a slow kind of movement, right? Like Lindsay mentioned, like yoga, right? Like it doesn't have to be like this powerhouse movement of like, I got to get my body moving at this like intense rate or speed. It could be like you're just moving slowly on the floor and just getting, those little pieces of you in motion. That does help kind of shift, where we are when we're really experiencing those heavy times. Um, and it can even be in motion of, Lindsay said it, like writing too, right? Like journaling, allowing those thoughts, feelings, and emotions to come out through the written word. I know that's helped me as well, really allowing myself to write out, the things that I have been keeping within me and expressing them outwardly. And I don't know if you both have ever done this, but writing letters to people who you have some sort of, issue, challenge, discontent, whatever that word is we want to put in there, experience, maybe that's a better one. And that experience has been weighted for you. And so you might have gone through more years in your life carrying that experience, and you really want to let it go. And so maybe it's a relationship with somebody where you're no longer speaking, but you have to find a way to get that out of you. And I know I've practiced this where writing letters to people, really expressing like that particular circumstance or experience and what that felt like for me. And even if it's the flip side where I need to be apologetic to somebody, right? It's kind of that duality of, all right, this happened and I'm feeling this way about what somebody showed me. And then what did I, maybe show them, so it's definitely, being able to express and experience those things freely. And that's been very therapeutic for me personally.
I want to share, it came to mind while you're talking, but it's a very practical tool that I found that helps. Have you guys seen the emotional intelligence wheel? You ever
Yes.
seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that thing. So if you haven't seen it, it's a wheel, and basically, all most humans use the same 7 words to describe all of their emotions: happy, sad, angry. I think, joyful. I can't remember, but it's 7 words in this emotional intelligence wheel. Just find it on Google. But then this wheel actually gives you so many more words on 2 different levels, and it just gives you a lot more vocabulary words of emotions. And
Hmm.
so if you're feeling, bad or heavy, well, I mean, is bad, or you can feel bad or sad, but even within those, there is such an array of other nuanced emotions and feelings in that. And I've really used that thing when I'm struggling and I'm just like, something, what the hell is wrong? Like something, but I can't put my finger on it. I'll use that wheel, and I always start, well, I always end on the positive words, but I'll start in like the sad or whatever and go all the way around the wheel, and I'll write down all of the things that I'm feeling. And there's a lot of bad emotions on there, but it's not really, it'll be like disappointed, frustrated. Am I, just agitated, or am I rageful? Like it just
Hmm.
helps to provide a clearer picture. And often when I need to pull out that thing, it's often because I'm feeling literally 15 to 20 different things, and just being able to put that on paper has always made me feel better. It just always helps to lift it up. And I'm like, okay, I've got way more perspective. And now I understand why I'm struggling so much, because I'm having such a broad emotional experience. Then no wonder it feels heavy. I'm literally carrying a whole bunch of emotions. But I always on the positive ones, typically I usually land on like content. I'm not happy. I'm not, overjoyed
Yeah.
or in these things, because obviously I was feeling all this other stuff. But if I can at least land on content, I'm usually, I'm feeling grateful. It's just very helpful. So it's just a practical tool to
Yeah.
help get it out. I really agree with that. You gotta move it, even if it is just, yeah, writing on paper.
Yeah.
That's moving it from in here out.
Yeah. And you're bringing up a really beautiful example, Alicia, and I know we want to also be mindful of time, but so with just about, kind of piggyback off of what you just said, one of the things I also do, and we've talked about this, is, inviting it for tea, if you will, right? So like all those thoughts, feelings, and emotions that you were just guiding through, Alicia, as your examples, it's being a witness to them and allowing them to sit at the table with you or write them down, write in context, and give them that voice.
Mhm.
Give them that place to be seen, felt, and heard and experienced, where it's safe for them to be. And we don't have to give them any sort of title as being bad, because there is no good, there is no bad, there just is, right? And if we're having a feeling or an experience of disappointment, well, then, okay, then we're just in that experience of disappointment. And is that an experience that we are wanting to give a lot of power to? Well, maybe, because maybe it requires more time, energy, and space than its counterpart. And I know that I'm right there with you. Like that's been a huge process for me, is allowing those aspects of myself to be seen, felt, heard, and not kept under the table, but literally invite them up, ask them to sit down, and let's guide through this. Like, why are you here? They're all messengers at the end of the day. right? It's just we've only been taught how to listen to those ones that are deemed good, the
When we
happy,
don't even have
the
the vocabulary
joyful,
for so much
you
of it.
know? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. You're
Yeah.
right.
Like just even having the vocabulary to describe it, it gives this whole new world and range of emotions. And if your vocabulary is only here, but you're feeling here, it's like
Yeah.
there's a gap. So yeah.
Right. Right. And I think too, like layering is such an important part of this because just like, especially if the emotion is something like anger, because anger is usually a surface level emotion, but it's typically from something much deeper. So it's like, if you say to yourself, okay, so and so made me angry when they said this, and then you ask yourself, well, why did that make me angry? And I can almost guarantee you that the deeper root of that is never going to be anger. It's going to be sadness, or it's going to be some other trigger
Fear.
is coming from that, that the tip of the iceberg is the anger, but that's not really the truth of it. So if you are actually layering down, and this could be a potential journaling exercise where you're asking yourself those layering questions. Why am I mad? Why do I feel angry? What is it about it that makes me feel angry? And just layering until you get to that root of it. And you may be surprised what really the root is, because it's not going to be right in your face, but it is at that deeper layer once you allow yourself to get there. And that's where you can really recognize what it is that you're truly experiencing.
Yeah.
Have you
Yeah.
guys ever heard the thought or the idea that all feelings stem from either love or fear?
Mm,
Mm,
Heard that before?
that
I
makes
mean,
sense.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't,
it
I can't
does.
speak to whether
Makes a
that's like
lot of sense.
absolute truth or not, but yeah, yeah.
I can feel truth within that. Sure. I mean, because that's
I do
typically
too.
what's happening, right? We're either giving our power to fear or we're giving our power to faith or love, whatever. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's kind of like where are we giving our power and our attention and what's dominant? And
It's
most of the
making me
time
think of
we've been
the,
dominated by fear.
yes, it's making me think of the two wolves thing. Like, which wolf are you feeding?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Hmm.
you're right. It is. Yeah, the fear of the faith. Absolutely. Well, ladies, I know we're getting close to time here, so we'll go ahead and we'll close this out. I do have a final little question here. So what is something that maybe you would want to share with somebody that is feeling overwhelmed, or alone, maybe like they are carrying the weight of the world? What is something that maybe you would like for them to hear? And I know we kind of guided through a lot, so I don't know if maybe that's the great question to close with, but I feel like it's for me, and I'll just jump in here while you guys are thinking about it or pondering about it. But for me, it's just that gentle reminder, you're not alone. You're not alone. And you don't have to carry this alone. And there are so many ways to work through those deep, heavy weighted thoughts, feelings, and emotions that you're experiencing. And I know we only kind of highlighted a few of them in this conversation tonight, but I know between the three of us, we have so many powerful modalities that we really tap into, for ourselves when we're allowing ourselves to receive that information and not kind of block it, which I know sometimes I'm very guilty of. When I'm feeling those heavy weighted things, I'm like, I'm in it. But sometimes I have to be in it in order to come back up. But I know that's a big one for me, reminding myself I'm not alone. And you both have really helped me to power through that. Um, and be able to finally speak on this very sensitive topic of, you know, carrying those heavy weights that we are not meant to carry alone. So I don't, yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it. Is anything coming up for you guys around that?
I would absolutely echo the you're not alone sentiment. And I think for me, my truth that I've come into on my spiritual journey is that we are all divine, perfect reflections of our creator, whoever that we believe that creator is. And just reminding ourselves that that's who we are, because when we're struggling with this, whatever it is popping up that we feel like we're not worthy or we're not valuable or there's so much happening and why is my life like this? It's like we need to be reminded of who we really are and our divine essence in the world. And you know, that just to be loved and to be loved is really why we're here. So just to reconnect with that and, reach out to whoever that is, in your life that you feel comfortable with talking to about this, and just extend, a hand and just say, hey, I need some support here. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's a beautiful thing. It's a courageous thing. And as you finally allow yourself to receive support, I think you also just feel immense relief from doing that.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, so I'm not the empath that you two are, although I do have my certain sensitivities. I have an inner drill sergeant, I would say. So I'm going to bring a little different to this, and it doesn't resonate with everybody. Understand that. But I just want to circle back to, like, you do actually have a choice in the matter. You have a choice where your thoughts, you're directing your thoughts to, where you're directing your focus to. I'm not saying that it's easy. It's not. Um, but I do believe that we can choose, and your body has to listen to your brain. So if your brain chooses to, I want to make sure I say this, in a gentle way, I guess. Um, your brain can choose to push through and to put heavy things down. And your brain can choose positive thoughts. But it does take effort to do that, you know. And that's the only thing for me, that internal locus of control, and helping people to understand that it really is something that you truly have within you. And while it's great that you're not alone, and Emily and Lindsay, and I'm here too, but at the end of the day, we have ourselves, and really building that internal trust within yourself, um, is part of coaching yourself, and being your own internal coach, and saying, no, I'm not just going to allow myself to get sucked in by this thing. Somebody else is telling me I can focus on positive things, and I can get out of it by doing that. Then I'm going to do my best to focus on those positive things. I'm going to write my 3 gratitudes every day. I'm going to stick my feet out in the grass. I'm going to trust that that people have gone through heavy, hard things before and have gotten through them. Looking to people like, gosh, like that one inspirational speaker that has no arms and no legs. I can't remember his name, but for heaven's sakes, if you need an example of being able to get through something, they are out there.
Mhm.
And it's a choice whether you choose to look at that, or you continue to choose to look at all the stuff that's negative and bringing you down. And so I just really want to encourage that everybody has the power to make the choice, and you have ownership over that. And that's really the only thing you can control. So focus on what you can control, and get to know your thoughts, and get to know the ones that aren't good for you. And eventually you'll forgive yourself for those thoughts and do all those things, but just recognize them for now, and know that they're not necessarily the truth.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on that real quick, and then we'll wrap this up. But I feel you, Lish, and for me personally, it has actually been not being in my mind and being in my body, because I was so much in my mind that I did not feel safe in my body. And so I was doing everything I could to escape being with myself, being in my body, and feeling safe to be there. So, as much as I know and understand the power of the mind, for me personally, it's not being in the mind, it's being in the body. It's being, just in the spaces of observing the mind, right? So like taking the time to ground myself down through my breath, get into my body, feel safe and secure in the space where I am, wherever I am. And trusting and knowing that if the mind is having all those racing thoughts or whatever showing up, like just observing them and like witnessing them and really trying not to give too much power to certain things that are coming in and just allowing them, allowing them to flow. So that's just been for me personally, my own kind of like challenges with the mind.
Mhm.
So, Linz, anything you want to close out with on that topic or outside of what we've already, I know you kind of shared a little bit too, but anything more showing up for you within everything we've highlighted?
No, I think no, I think you both did a beautiful job of reflecting on, what you experienced. And I think that, this is just it's such an important thing to just talk about this kind of stuff and not pretend like it's not there. And so I just feel like it's good to get it out there and just know that, there are people that understand. If you are feeling heavy, then there's people that get it. And, that, you're not, because I know it's like we can just so often think that it's us and like you were saying earlier, what's the problem with me, right? And there is no problem with you. There's no problem with you whatsoever. So yeah, it's like if we can even have one person hear that and believe that, then that's, a beautiful thought.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to close it out with this really beautiful quote that I found, and I'm sure the both of you have probably heard this or maybe familiar. For a star to be born, there is one thing that must happen. A gaseous nebula must collapse. So collapse, crumble. This is not your destruction. This is your birth. And I feel like that was such a powerful thing to close out with and really highlighting what we were kind of talking about tonight, that, in order to really come forward and go through this place of rebirthing, if you will, we have to crumble. We have to go through those deconstruction phases and really knock out those heavy weights that we've been carrying. So we'll go ahead and we'll end it there. I think this is such an important topic, and I'm so grateful for both of you, wanting to talk through this because I know it is very challenging and difficult. And I feel very necessary for more and more people to feel safe, to communicate and talk about and not, carry those weights alone. So anything you want to close out, ladies, or I just want to make sure I give you that space if there's anything else you want to say. If not, then yeah. Well, thank you all for being here. We're grateful for anybody that's tuning in and watching. Definitely stay tuned. We are going to be bringing more content to you as time goes on, as we're called to do so. That's a big thing between the three of us is we really, really tune into when we're being called and when the message needs to be shared. So we don't know when that will be, but we will be back. And I really appreciate you being here with us today.
Thank you, Em.
Thanks.
Thank you.